Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Shawflowers Facts. This has never really been the most pleasant building for us. Not long after I moved in, a tenant whose name was Michael Gray moved into the building. Apparently, Michael was one of Glenn's friends. At least it seemed so, based on the way they talked and various other things, which according to them included going to AA meetings together. When Michael first moved in, Glenn's girlfriend, the then acting manager, asked if it was okay if Michael did some repairs in our unit. We were definitely very iffy about it and would have much preferred a regular maintenance person. But we wanted to avoid any sort of friction and just move things along in the least complicated way possible. So we agreed to go with Michael doing the repairs in our unit. The repairs were pretty simple: a leaking faucet, an issue with the closet doors, and maybe some other minor thing we can't remember. When Michael arrived, he walked through our unit without bothering to ask if we would like him to take off his boots or put on some shoe covers. He checked our bedroom closet first, where he proceeded to look through our closet area to see what was inside. When I asked him why he needed to examine the contents of our closet like this, he seemed to take umbrage, and in an annoyed manner walked over to the sink. Michael spent a lot of time banging drums in his units, but he didn't seem to have any skill or will when it came to doing this type of work, because when he finally started, he just irritably clattered some tools around for a few minutes, and then in an irritable huff left our unit without saying anything. From there, things became progressively problematic. Back then, we were also dealing with our own set of challenges from another set of issues. And like anyone else, we wanted to attend to things the best way we could. Hopefully, it won't seem like too much of a tangent if I say that backing out our vehicle on Kester Avenue is usually difficult, and it can be dangerous if we are not careful, especially when there's a narrow space between tenants' vehicles that make it necessary to pretty much fully back out into the street before you can start making a turn, which can be very risky, especially when any sort of larger vehicle, such as a truck, pickup, or SUV, is parked on the street where our view of traffic is almost entirely blocked. This is why Stacy has to make a 3-point turn every time she backs out her vehicle. Hesby is only feet from us, and we have had a few close calls from people darting out from the east and west of Hesby when they see a break in traffic from Kester. Not at all considering that as they make a hasty turn onto Kester, that someone might be backing out from a driveway. Kester Avenue is where we live, but it's everyone's shortcut. A shortcut that many treat like a freeway. There have been a lot of serious and major accidents in front of building. At one point, there were 5 in 1 month. Taking all of this into consideration, one time in what I think was the early evening, we parked on the street in front of our building because we thought we might go out again soon. I remember we had already been run down that day, and as the evening progressed, we just settled in and didn't even remember that we were still parked on the street. It wasn't until the next day, when we went to our car, we realized that we had left our vehicle parked on the street. At that point, we also noticed Michael's vehicle parked in our carport. When Michael was sitting on the building's stairs talking on his phone, Terry approached him about being parked in our spot. Michael said that he would stop parking on a space when we stopped parking on the street. He then said to Terry, "I'm on the phone now," and turned away. This type of harassment and bullying from Michael continued for a long time, including after Jay became manager. We were later told by Seth, the person who took over Glenn's position after he was fired, that Jay said he refuses to get involved with tenants' disputes and that they have to work it out among themselves. We believe that Jay, like some other people, likes to twist things around in a way that he can blame the victim instead of helping them, because he sees the victim as the weaker side, or they wouldn't be the victims in the first place. So, with these types of issues, shifting the blame to the people who he knows are being abused is a much faster and easier solution for him. During a three-way conversation between Jay, Terry, and Michael, Michael told Jay that Terry had pulled a shotgun on him. Terry was very upset that Jay had no response to that. Terry believed that Jay should have pointed out that this was a very serious accusation and needed to ask Michael why he didn't call the police. Instead, Jay just tried to take advantage of Terry's frustration. As time went by, with no facts, proof, or bothering to ask any questions, Jay continued to insinuate that Terry was brandishing weapons, which again is a serious charge. We were extremely disturbed by this because we knew that Jay was knowingly putting us in serious danger. Because it should be obvious to anyone that if Michael and or Jay told the police that Terry was brandishing weapons, the police would have a very serious tactical response with us, which could have easily, as has been the case in so many situations like this, resulted in a horrible and senseless tragedy. Jay loves to harp on about safety at every opportunity he gets. Safety is one of his main go-to words. We went through a lot of prolonged and awkward struggle with Jay about the brandishing weapons accusations, until we finally had enough and called him out by basically telling him that if he believes this to be true, he needs to call the police. And if memory serves, I think we offered to go to the police station with him to sort this out once and for all. Jay is a vindictive narcissist. And like what seems to be the case with all narcissists, they are ready to create any level of misery for someone rather than admit they are wrong. And once you offend his narcissist sensibilities in any way, be it if you dare to question him, disagree with him, ask him too many times to do a simple thing he doesn't want to be bothered with, or even an imaginary slight, he will resent you forever and seek any opportunity for retaliation. During the time Michael was bullying us over our parking space, he tried to turn another neighbor against us. This neighbor was a nasty individual, whom we avoided for the 1 or 2 months that he and his roommate lived in our building. Another tenant in our building at the time assumed Terry's identity. The tenant did this by sending another tenant in the building a threatening email. In the email, the tenant said he was Terry, and he, referring to Terry, said, "I'm the psychotic-looking white fuck in Unit 14. Terry struggled not to get in a fight with the tenant who received the email. That almost attacked Terry. I dare say that a lot of people would not have tried so hard to de-escalate the situation, especially when it doesn't exactly take a genius to ask why someone would not only say who they are, but also refer to themselves as the psychotic-looking white fuck. The point of those two ordeals is that both Michael and Jay used them to accuse us of having a problem with a lot of people. This was fairly soon after 9/11, and Michael called me Tobblehead and fucking camel jockey. I did not tell Terry about this at the time, because back then Terry was somewhat formidable, and I did not want to put an emotional challenge like that on him that could have gotten out of hand. During this time, our storage was also broken into, and we lost some valuable things that we had been meaning to take to our unit. We don't think Michael did that, but rather the tenant who sent the threatening email. The tenant who received the email saw our unit getting broken into, but he did or said nothing. In this post, I was hoping to cover some necessary points about Jay, but for this, I will need to do another video. In that video, I will have a recording of Jay. But to avoid confusion in this post, I will use a video of another one of the many times Mayra gave us the middle finger. And although it may not seem entirely related, it is nevertheless still a good example of how not only all transgressions against us have and continue to be ignored, but also how these transgressions are invariably twisted around in a way that is used against us. After all, Jay never once said he considered Myra calling us bitch and giving us the middle finger on a daily basis for years, annoying and harassing behavior. Thanks for watching and hope you continue.